Marcus Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse office, watching the city move like tiny ants 40 floors below. At 32, he controlled a business empire worth $12 billion. Tech companies, real estate ventures, and investment firms all bore his name. Success had come early and stayed late, but it had also taught him harsh lessons about trust and weakness. His phone buzzed with the familiar tone reserved for his assistant. "Mr. Sterling, the candidates for the new marketing director position have arrived. Should I send them up one by one?" Marcus straightened his Italian silk tie and walked to his massive mahogany desk. 3 files lay perfectly arranged, each containing a carefully vetted candidate. He had specific requirements for everyone who worked closely with him, especially women. They had to be professional, competent, and most importantly, not distracting. He had learned this rule the hard way after his ex-fiancée Claire had nearly destroyed his focus and cost him a major deal 3 years ago. "Send up the first candidate," he said into the phone. The elevator doors opened 10 minutes later, revealing a tall, thin woman in a sharp business suit. Patricia Whitman had impressive credentials from Harvard Business School and 5 years at a top advertising firm. She spoke confidently about market strategies and brand positioning. Her presentation was flawless, her answers precise, and her appearance exactly what Marcus preferred in his female employees: professional and unremarkable. The second candidate arrived 30 minutes later. Jennifer Park, an Asian-American woman with a stellar track record at Google. She wore a conservative navy dress and spoke with authority about digital marketing trends. Her portfolio showed campaigns that had generated millions in revenue. Like Patricia, she fit Marcus's unspoken criteria perfectly. Marcus felt satisfied with both candidates as he reviewed their files. Either would work well in his organization. Both were intelligent, experienced, and importantly, they wouldn't cause any workplace complications. He had built his rule carefully over the years, hiring only women who met his strict professional standards without being what he considered dangerously attractive or distracting. His intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Sterling, there seems to be a mix-up with the third candidate. The person from the staffing agency isn't the same as the one in the file." Marcus frowned. He hated disruptions to his carefully planned schedule. "What do you mean exactly?" "Well, sir, the file says Maria Rodriguez, but the woman here says her name is Sofia Martinez. She claims there was a scheduling error, but she has all the right qualifications. She's asking if she can still interview today." Marcus checked his watch. He had a board meeting in 2 hours and a conference call with Tokyo after that. Rescheduling would mean pushing the hiring decision back by another week, which would delay the product launch he had been planning for months. "Fine. Send her up. But make it quick," he said, already annoyed by the complication. Marcus barely looked up from his computer screen when the elevator doors opened again. He was responding to an urgent email from his London office when he heard heels clicking across his marble floor. The sound was different somehow, confident but with a subtle rhythm that made him glance up automatically. What he saw made him forget completely about the email he was typing. Sofia Martinez walked toward his desk with a presence that filled the entire room. She had curves that her professional black dress couldn't hide, long dark hair that caught the afternoon light streaming through his windows, and warm brown eyes that seemed to see right through his usual intimidating stare. Her smile was genuine, not the nervous or overly eager expressions he was used to seeing from job candidates. "Mr. Sterling, I'm Sofia Martinez. Thank you for agreeing to see me despite the scheduling confusion." Marcus found himself standing up, something he rarely did for interviews. His usual smooth confidence seemed to have abandoned him entirely. Sofia walked forward and extended her hand for a handshake. When their skin touched, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a jolt of attraction so strong it almost made him step backward. "Please. Have a seat," he managed to say, gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. Sofia sat down gracefully, crossing her legs and opening a portfolio that looked well organized and professional. But Marcus was having trouble focusing on anything except the way she moved, the curve of her smile, and how her dress hugged her figure in ways that made his carefully constructed rules seem suddenly ridiculous. "I know there was some confusion about my appointment," Sofia began, "but I'm very excited about the opportunity to work with Sterling Enterprises. I've followed your company's growth for the past 5 years, and I believe my experience in multicultural marketing could help expand your reach into new demographics." As Sophia talked, Marcus realized she wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant. Her ideas were innovative, her analysis of his company's current marketing strategy was insightful, and she spoke with a passion that made him want to keep listening. She had worked with major brands like Nike and Apple, creating campaigns that had won industry awards and generated massive sales increases. But every time she leaned forward to show him something in her portfolio, or when she smiled while explaining a concept, Marcus felt his concentration slip. This was exactly what he had tried to avoid for 3 years. Sophia Martinez was everything his rule was designed to protect him from: stunning, confident, and worst of all, incredibly capable. The interview lasted twice as long as the previous two. Marcus found himself asking questions just to keep her talking, to keep her in his office a little longer. When Sophia finally closed her portfolio and prepared to leave, Marcus realized he had a serious problem. According to every logical criterion, Sophia was the best candidate he had seen. Her experience was superior, her ideas were exactly what his company needed, and her track record spoke for itself. But hiring her would mean breaking the rule that had protected his focus and success for years. As Sophia stood to leave, she turned back with that devastating smile. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Sterling. I hope to hear from you soon." After she left, Marcus sat in his office staring at the elevator doors, knowing that everything had just changed. His rule had been simple and effective, but Sophia Martinez had walked in and shattered it completely in less than an hour. Marcus spent the next 3 days in a state of complete mental chaos. He had built his entire professional life around control and clear decision-making, but Sophia Martinez had left him unable to think straight. Every time he tried to focus on work, his mind wandered back to her smile, her laugh, or the way she had confidently challenged some of his company's marketing approaches during the interview. His assistant knocked on his office door Tuesday morning with the candidate files. "Mr. Sterling, the hiring committee is waiting for your decision on the marketing director position. Patricia Whitman and Jennifer Park have both sent follow-up emails expressing their continued interest." Marcus stared at the 3 files on his desk. Patricia and Jennifer were safe choices, exactly what he had always preferred. They would do excellent work without causing any complications in his carefully ordered world. But Sophia's file seemed to practically glow with potential. Her ideas could revolutionize his company's entire marketing strategy and open doors to markets they had never successfully penetrated. "Give me another day," Marcus said, knowing he was being ridiculous. He had never taken this long to make a hiring decision in his entire career. That afternoon, Marcus found himself doing something completely out of character. He called his best friend and business partner, David Chen, and asked him to meet for drinks after work. They had known each other since college, and David was one of the few people who could speak honestly to Marcus, without fear of losing his job. They met at their usual spot, an upscale bar overlooking Central Park. David ordered his usual scotch while Marcus sat nursing a whiskey and staring out at the traffic below. "Okay, what's going on?" David asked after watching Marcus ignore his drink for 10 minutes. "You look like someone stole your favorite spreadsheet." Marcus almost smiled at that. "There's this job candidate. She's perfect for the position, but she's exactly the type of woman I've made it a rule not to hire." David raised an eyebrow. "You mean she's attractive?" "That's putting it mildly," Marcus replied. "David, this woman walked into my office and completely destroyed my ability to think like a rational businessman. I've had the same rule for 3 years, and it served me well. No hiring women who might be distracting." David took a long sip of his scotch and shook his head. "Marcus, do you hear yourself? You're talking about not hiring the best candidate because you find her attractive. That's not good business, that's fear." "It's not fear, it's practical experience," Marcus shot back. "Remember what happened with Claire? I nearly lost the Morrison deal because I was so focused on our relationship drama that I missed crucial details in the negotiations." "Claire was your fiancée, not an employee," David pointed out. "And if I remember correctly, you lost focus because she was manipulating you and lying about seeing other men behind your back." "That's not the same as being attracted to a qualified colleague." Marcus finished his whiskey and signaled for another. "The result is the same. When I'm attracted to someone, my judgment gets clouded. I make mistakes." David leaned back in his chair and studied his friend. "Marcus, you've built a $12 billion empire. You're one of the smartest businessmen I know. Don't you think you've learned enough about yourself to handle working with an attractive woman without losing your mind?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. It was his head of human resources, Linda Morrison. She had been with the company for 8 years and was known for her direct approach to difficult conversations. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about the marketing director position," Linda said without preamble. "I've reviewed all 3 candidates, and honestly, Sophia Martinez is in a league of her own. Her portfolio is incredible, her references are glowing, and her salary requirements are actually lower than the other 2 candidates, despite having superior qualifications." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "What's your recommendation?" "Hire her immediately before someone else does," Linda said firmly. "Marcus, I've been in HR for 20 years, and I rarely see candidates this good. If you pass on her for any reason other than legitimate business concerns, you're making a serious mistake." After hanging up, Marcus sat quietly while David watched him wrestle with the decision. Finally, David spoke up. "What's the worst thing that could happen if you hire her?" Marcus thought about it seriously. "I could become distracted, make poor decisions, lose focus on important deals." "And what's the worst thing that could happen if you don't hire her?" "She could go work for a competitor and help them crush us in the market," Marcus admitted reluctantly. David smiled. "There's your answer. The business risk of not hiring her is bigger than the personal risk of hiring her." The next morning, Marcus arrived at his office an hour earlier than usual. He had spent most of the night thinking about David's words and reviewing Sophia's portfolio for the 10th time. Every rational business instinct told him to hire her. She was clearly the best candidate, and his company would benefit enormously from her expertise. But when he imagined seeing her every day, working closely with her on campaigns and strategy, his carefully maintained composure seemed to crack. Sophia Martinez represented everything his rule was, designed to protect him from the kind of dangerous attraction that could make him vulnerable and unfocused. Marcus made his decision just as his assistant arrived for the day. He would hire Sophia, but with strict boundaries. She would work primarily with other department heads, report to him only in group settings, and he would maintain complete professional distance. He could control his attraction through sheer willpower and proper management structure. "Call Sophia Martinez and offer her the position," he told his assistant. "Standard salary package, start date next Monday." An hour later, his assistant buzzed him with Sophia's response. She had accepted immediately and sounded thrilled about the opportunity. Marcus felt both satisfied with his business decision and terrified about what he had just set in motion. That Friday afternoon, Sophia arrived for her first day orientation. Marcus watched from his office window as she walked across the lobby 40 floors below, even though he told himself he wasn't looking for her. She wore a burgundy dress that was completely professional, but somehow made her look even more stunning than he remembered. Marcus Sterling had broken his most important rule. Convinced he could handle the consequences through careful management and iron self-control. He had no idea that Sophia Martinez was about to challenge every assumption he had ever made about business, attraction, and the carefully constructed walls he had built around his heart. Sophia's first week at Sterling Enterprises exceeded everyone's expectations except Marcus's worst fears. She had thrown herself into understanding the company's current marketing strategies, spending long hours reviewing past campaigns and analyzing competitor activities. Her preliminary report had impressed the entire marketing team, and several department heads were already requesting meetings to discuss collaborative projects. Marcus had tried to maintain his planned distance, but it proved impossible when Sophia's work kept intersecting with his major business initiatives. On Wednesday, she had identified a crucial flaw in their upcoming product launch strategy that could have cost the company millions. On Thursday, she had proposed a partnership opportunity with a streaming service that could revolutionize their digital presence. By Friday morning, Marcus found himself in the uncomfortable position of needing to work directly with Sophia on the quarterly planning meeting. His usual strategy of delegating such collaborations to his department heads wasn't practical when the CEO's input was specifically required. Sophia knocked on his office door at exactly 10 o'clock, carrying a laptop and a stack of beautifully organized presentation materials. She wore a navy blue dress with a matching jacket that was completely appropriate for business, but Marcus noticed how the color brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Thank you for making time for this planning session," Sophia said. settling into the chair across from his desk with the same confident grace he remembered from her interview. Marcus nodded curtly, determined to keep the meeting strictly professional. "Let's see what you prepared." Sophia opened her laptop and turned it toward him, revealing a comprehensive analysis that took his breath away. She had spent the past week not just learning about Sterling Enterprises, but truly understanding it. Her presentation showed deep insights into their market position, customer demographics, and growth opportunities that went far beyond surface-level research. "I've identified 3 key areas where we can significantly increase market share," Sophia began, her voice animated with enthusiasm. "The first is expanding into the Hispanic market, which represents 37% of our target demographic, but only receives about 8% of our marketing focus." As Sophia talked, Marcus found himself genuinely impressed despite his efforts to remain detached. Her analysis was brilliant, her strategies were innovative, and her passion for the work was obvious. She had clearly spent considerable time studying not just their current campaigns, but understanding the broader market trends and cultural shifts that could impact their business. The second opportunity involves partnering with micro-influencers rather than focusing solely on major celebrity endorsements, Sophia continued, clicking to a slide filled with compelling statistics. "My research shows that consumers trust recommendations from smaller, more relatable influencers significantly more than traditional celebrity advertising." Marcus leaned forward despite himself, studying the data she had compiled. "These numbers are impressive, but how do you propose managing relationships with hundreds of smaller influencers instead of a few major partnerships?" Sophia smiled, and Marcus realized she had been hoping he would ask that exact question. "I've already developed a preliminary framework for an influencer management platform that could automate much of the process while maintaining personal relationships. The cost savings alone would pay for the technology development within 18 months. For the next 2 hours, Marcus found himself completely absorbed in the most productive business discussion he had had in months. Sophia's ideas weren't just creative, they were backed by solid research and realistic implementation plans. She challenged his assumptions about their target markets, questioned strategies that had become routine, and proposed solutions to problems he hadn't even fully recognized. But Marcus also noticed other things that had nothing to do with business. The way Sophia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking. How her eyes lit up when she explained a concept she was particularly excited about. The graceful way she moved her hands while presenting. By the end of the meeting, Marcus realized his carefully planned professional distance had completely evaporated. "This is excellent work, Sophia," Marcus said as she closed her laptop. "I want you to present these strategies to the board next week." Sophia's face brightened with surprise and pleasure. "Really? That's a tremendous opportunity. Thank you for trusting me with something so important." Marcus stood up to signal the end of the meeting, but Sophia remained seated, looking like she wanted to say something else. "Is there something more?" Marcus asked. Sophia hesitated for a moment, then looked directly at him with those warm brown eyes. "Mr. Sterling, can I speak frankly?" Marcus felt a warning bell go off in his head, but he nodded. "I've heard some rumors around the office about your hiring preferences," Sophia said carefully. "Some people seem to think you don't usually hire women like me." Marcus felt heat rise in his face. He had hoped his rule was less obvious than apparently it was. "I don't know what you mean." Sophia smiled gently, but her gaze was direct. "I mean women who don't fit a certain physical type. Look, I don't want to make this awkward, but I also don't want to spend every day wondering if I'm being judged by different standards than my male colleagues." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, unsure how to respond without either lying or admitting to something that could create legal problems for his company. "Sophia, you were hired because you're the most qualified candidate we interviewed. Your work this week has only confirmed that decision. I hope you'll judge my management by my actions, not by office gossip." Sophia studied his face, seeming to weigh his words. Finally, she nodded and stood up. "That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you for being direct with me." As Sophia walked toward the elevator, Marcus realized that their conversation had only made his situation more complicated. She was not only beautiful and brilliant, but also perceptive and direct in ways that he found incredibly attractive. His rule had been designed to protect him from exactly this kind of complicated attraction, but breaking it seemed to have unleashed something he wasn't sure he could control. That evening, Marcus stayed late in his office, ostensibly to review some contracts, but really because he was trying to process what was happening to his carefully ordered world. Sofia Martinez had been in his company for exactly 5 days, and she had already fundamentally changed how he thought about his business strategies and his personal boundaries. Marcus looked out at the city lights and admitted something he had been avoiding all week. His attraction to Sofia wasn't just physical, it was intellectual and emotional as well. She challenged him in ways that made him want to be better at his job and as a person. For the first time in 3 years, he found himself questioning whether his rule had been protecting him or simply limiting him. The realization terrified him more than any business risk he had ever taken. The board presentation was scheduled for Tuesday morning, and Marcus spent the weekend in a state of nervous anticipation that had nothing to do with business concerns. Sofia's strategies were solid. He knew the board would be impressed. What worried him was how he would handle watching her command a room full of senior executives with the same confidence and brilliance she had shown in their private meeting. Monday evening, Sofia stayed late to rehearse her presentation. Marcus found excuses to walk past the conference room where she was practicing, telling himself he was just checking on her preparation. Through the glass walls, he could see her presenting to empty chairs, her movements animated and passionate as she explained her market analysis. At 7:30, Marcus knocked on the conference room door. Sofia looked up from her laptop, surprised to see him. "Mr. Sterling, is everything all right?" Marcus stepped into the room, immediately regretting the decision. Sofia had removed her blazer, revealing a sleeveless blouse that showed her graceful shoulders and arms. Her hair was slightly disheveled from running her hands through it while thinking, and she looked more approachable than he had ever seen her. "I wanted to see if you needed any guidance for tomorrow's presentation," Marcus said, though they both knew it wasn't necessary. Sofia's work was impeccable. Sofia smiled, seemingly aware of his real reason for being there but choosing not to mention it. "Actually, I do have one question. How much resistance should I expect to the influencer marketing proposal? I know some board members prefer traditional advertising approaches." Marcus found himself moving closer to look at her presentation screen, close enough to catch the subtle scent of her perfume. Richard Morrison and Janet Wells might push back initially, but if you show them the cost analysis first, they'll come around. They're both very focused on bottom-line results. Sofia nodded, making notes on her presentation outline. As she wrote, Marcus noticed how gracefully she held her pen, how her handwriting was neat and decisive. Everything about her seemed purposeful and elegant. "Marcus," Sofia said suddenly, using his first name for the first time, "can I ask you something personal?" Marcus felt his heart rate increase. "What is it?" Sofia turned to face him directly. "Why are you fighting this so hard?" Marcus tried to look confused. "Fighting what?" "This connection between us," Sofia said simply. "I've been watching you all week, and I can tell you feel it too. But every time we start to have a real conversation, you pull back and hide behind your CEO persona." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, torn between the urge to be honest and his instinct to protect himself. "Sofia, we work together. I have to maintain professional boundaries." Sofia stood up, moving closer to him. "That's not what this is about, and we both know it. This is about you being scared." "I'm not scared," Marcus said automatically, though even he could hear how unconvincing it sounded. Sofia laughed softly. "Marcus, you run a $12 billion company. You make decisions that affect thousands of people. But you're terrified of admitting that you're attracted to your marketing director." Marcus looked directly at her, and for a moment, all his careful control slipped away. "You're right. I am terrified, because the last time I let personal feelings affect my business judgment, it nearly cost me everything." Sofia's expression softened. "What happened?" Marcus found himself telling her about Claire, about how their relationship had distracted him from important deals and made him vulnerable to manipulation. He explained his rule about hiring only women who wouldn't create complications, and how Sofia had shattered that rule completely just by walking into his office. Sofia listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, I'm not Claire," she said finally. "I'm not looking to manipulate you or use our connection for personal gain. I'm here because I love this work and because I think we could build something amazing together, professionally and personally." Marcus felt something shift inside him at her words. Sophia, I can't afford to make the same mistake twice. Then don't make a mistake, Sophia said, stepping closer. Make a choice. Choose to trust that you're strong enough and smart enough to handle both business and personal feelings without losing your mind. They were standing very close now, close enough that Marcus could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. For a moment, all the reasons why this was a bad idea seemed to fade away. All he could think about was how much he wanted to kiss her, and how right it felt to be having this honest conversation after a week of pretending to be unaffected. Before Marcus could make a decision, his phone rang with the tone reserved for emergency calls. He glanced at the screen and saw it was his head of operations calling from their Los Angeles office. I have to take this, Marcus said, stepping back and answering the phone. The call was about a major production delay that would affect their upcoming product launch, exactly the kind of crisis that required immediate attention and clear thinking. As Marcus discussed damage control strategies and revised timelines, he was acutely aware of Sophia gathering her materials and preparing to leave. When the call ended 20 minutes later, Sophia was gone. She had left a note on the conference table that simply said, "Good luck with the LA situation. See you tomorrow for the presentation." Marcus spent the rest of the evening handling the production crisis, but part of his mind kept replaying Sophia's words. She had challenged him to make a choice rather than just react from fear. She had offered him something he hadn't even realized he wanted, a partnership that could work on multiple levels. By the time Marcus finally left the office at midnight, he had resolved the LA situation and made a decision about Sophia. Tomorrow, after her board presentation, he would tell her the truth about how he felt and see if they could build something together, despite all the complications. Marcus Sterling, who had built his entire career on careful planning and risk management, was about to take the biggest personal gamble of his life, and for the first time in years he was more excited than terrified about the outcome. The next morning, as Marcus prepared for the board meeting, he realized that Sophia had already changed him in ways he was just beginning to understand. Whether or not they could make a personal relationship work, she had shown him that his rule had been limiting more than just his hiring decisions. It had been limiting his capacity for growth and connection. Today, everything would change. The board presentation was scheduled for Tuesday morning, and Marcus spent the weekend in a state of nervous anticipation that had nothing to do with business concerns. Sophia's strategies were solid. He knew the board would be impressed. What worried him was how he would handle watching her command a room full of senior executives with the same confidence and brilliance she had shown in their private meeting. Monday evening, Sophia stayed late to rehearse her presentation. Marcus found excuses to walk past the conference room where she was practicing, telling himself he was just checking on her preparation. Through the glass walls he could see her presenting to empty chairs, her movements animated and passionate as she explained her market analysis. At 7:30, Marcus knocked on the conference room door. Sophia looked up from her laptop, surprised to see him. "Mr. Sterling, is everything all right?" Marcus stepped into the room, immediately regretting the decision. Sophia had removed her blazer, revealing a sleeveless blouse that showed her graceful shoulders and arms. Her hair was slightly disheveled from running her hands through it while thinking, and she looked more approachable than he had ever seen her. "I wanted to see if you needed any guidance for tomorrow's presentation," Marcus said, though they both knew it wasn't necessary. Sophia's work was impeccable. Sophia smiled, seemingly aware of his real reason for being there but choosing not to mention it. "Actually, I do have one question. How much resistance should I expect to the influencer marketing proposal? I know some board members prefer traditional advertising approaches." Marcus found himself moving closer to look at her presentation screen, close enough to catch the subtle scent of her perfume. Richard Morrison and Janet Wells might push back initially, but if you show them the cost analysis first, they'll come around. They're both very focused on bottom-line results. Sophia nodded, making notes on her presentation outline. As she wrote, Marcus noticed how gracefully she held her pen, how her handwriting was neat and decisive. Everything about her seemed purposeful and elegant. "Marcus," Sophia said suddenly, using his first name for the first time, "can I ask you something personal?" Marcus felt his heart rate increase. "What is it?" Sophia turned to face him directly. "Why are you fighting this so hard? Marcus tried to look confused. Fighting what? This connection between us, Sophia said simply. I've been watching you all week and I can tell you feel it too. But every time we start to have a real conversation, you pull back and hide behind your CEO persona. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, torn between the urge to be honest and his instinct to protect himself. Sophia, we work together. I have to maintain professional boundaries. Sophia stood up, moving closer to him. That's not what this is about, and we both know it. This is about you being scared. I'm not scared, Marcus said automatically, though even he could hear how unconvincing it sounded. Sophia laughed softly. Marcus, you run a $12 billion company. You make decisions that affect thousands of people. But you're terrified of admitting that you're attracted to your marketing director. Marcus looked directly at her, and for a moment, all his careful control slipped away. You're right. I am terrified, because the last time I let personal feelings affect my business judgment, it nearly cost me everything. Sophia's expression softened. What happened? Marcus found himself telling her about Claire, about how their relationship had distracted him from important deals and made him vulnerable to manipulation. He explained his rule about hiring only women who wouldn't create complications, and how Sophia had shattered that rule completely just by walking into his office. Sophia listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Marcus, I'm not Claire, she said finally. I'm not looking to manipulate you or use our connection for personal gain. I'm here because I love this work and because I think we could build something amazing together, professionally and personally. Marcus felt something shift inside him at her words. Sophia, I can't afford to make the same mistake twice. Then don't make a mistake, Sophia said, stepping closer. Make a choice. Choose to trust that you're strong enough and smart enough to handle both business and personal feelings without losing your mind. They were standing very close now, close enough that Marcus could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. For a moment, all the reasons why this was a bad idea seemed to fade away. All he could think about was how much he wanted to kiss her, and how right it felt to be having this honest conversation after a week of pretending to be unaffected. Before Marcus could make a decision, his phone rang with the tone reserved for emergency calls. He glanced at the screen and saw it was his head of operations calling from their Los Angeles office. I have to take this, Marcus said, stepping back and answering the phone. The call was about a major production delay that would affect their upcoming product launch, exactly the kind of crisis that required immediate attention and clear thinking. As Marcus discussed damage control strategies and revised timelines, he was acutely aware of Sophia gathering her materials and preparing to leave. When the call ended 20 minutes later, Sophia was gone. She had left a note on the conference table that simply said, "Good luck with the LA situation. See you tomorrow for the presentation." Marcus spent the rest of the evening handling the production crisis, but part of his mind kept replaying Sophia's words. She had challenged him to make a choice rather than just react from fear. She had offered him something he hadn't even realized he wanted, a partnership that could work on multiple levels. By the time Marcus finally left the office at midnight, he had resolved the LA situation and made a decision about Sophia. Tomorrow, after her board presentation, he would tell her the truth about how he felt and see if they could build something together, despite all the complications. Marcus Sterling, who had built his entire career on careful planning and risk management, was about to take the biggest personal gamble of his life, and for the first time in years he was more excited than terrified about the outcome. The next morning, as Marcus prepared for the board meeting, he realized that Sophia had already changed him in ways he was just beginning to understand. Whether or not they could make a personal relationship work, she had shown him that his rule had been limiting more than just his hiring decisions. It had been limiting his capacity for growth and connection. Today, everything would change. 3 months after Sophia's board presentation, Sterling Enterprises was experiencing the most successful quarter in company history. Her influencer marketing campaign had exceeded all projected targets, generating a 43% increase in brand awareness and a 37% boost in sales. The Hispanic Market Initiative had opened doors to partnerships Marcus had never considered possible, but the success came with complications that Marcus hadn't fully anticipated. Working closely with Sophia while trying to maintain a secret personal relationship proved more challenging than either of them had expected. They found themselves stealing moments between meetings, sharing lingering glances during conference calls, and struggling to maintain professional composure when their hands accidentally touched while reviewing documents. The secrecy was becoming exhausting for both of them. Sophia had suggested multiple times that they should be open about their relationship, but Marcus remained concerned about how it might affect their professional dynamic and company morale. "We can't keep this up forever," Sophia said one evening as they sat in Marcus's office after most of the staff had gone home. "People are starting to notice that we spend a lot of private time together, and the rumors are getting more creative every week." Marcus looked up from the quarterly reports he was reviewing. "What kind of rumors?" Sophia laughed, but there was frustration in her voice. "Linda from HR asked me yesterday if I was getting special treatment because of my close working relationship with the CEO. 2, people from accounting wanted to know if you were planning to promote me because of factors that had nothing to do with my job performance." Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. "What did you tell them?" "I told them the truth, that any recognition I receive is based entirely on my work results," Sophia said. "But Marcus, these conversations are getting uncomfortable. People are questioning my professional credibility, and that affects both of us." Marcus knew Sophia was right, but admitting their relationship publicly felt like crossing a line he wasn't sure he was ready for. His previous experience with mixing business and personal feelings had ended badly, and the stakes were so much higher now. "Give me a little more time," Marcus said. "Let's see how the next quarter goes." Sophia's expression shifted to something Marcus had never seen before, disappointment mixed with hurt. "Marcus, are you ashamed of being with me?" "Of course not," Marcus said immediately. "Sophia, you're the most amazing woman I've ever known. I'm proud to be with you." "Then why are we hiding like we're doing something wrong?" Sophia asked. "We're both adults, we're both single, and we're both excellent at our jobs. What exactly are you afraid will happen if people know we're together?" Marcus struggled to articulate his concerns without sounding paranoid or controlling. "I'm afraid people will think you're getting opportunities because of our relationship instead of your talent. I'm afraid other employees will feel like they can't compete fairly. I'm afraid investors or clients will question our judgment if they think we're letting personal feelings influence business decisions." Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city. "Marcus, do you trust me?" "Completely," Marcus answered without hesitation. "Do you trust yourself?" Marcus paused. "What do you mean?" Sophia turned back to face him. "Do you trust that you can make good business decisions even when you're emotionally invested in someone? Do you trust that I can maintain my professional integrity even when I'm in love with my boss?" The word love hung in the air between them, and Marcus realized it was the first time either of them had used it directly. The admission made everything feel more serious and more real. "Sophia, because if you don't trust us to handle both a professional and personal relationship," Sophia continued, "then maybe we shouldn't be attempting either one." Marcus felt something close to panic at the thought of losing Sophia. Over the past 3 months, she had become essential to both his business success and his personal happiness. The idea of going back to his old routine of careful distance and emotional isolation seemed impossible now. "You're right," Marcus said finally. "I do trust you and I should trust us. But Sophia, if we do this, if we go public with our relationship, things will change. People will scrutinize everything we do together. Some employees might resent you, some clients might question our professionalism, and we'll have to work twice as hard to prove that our business decisions aren't influenced by personal feelings." Sophia smiled, and Marcus realized she had been waiting for him to work through his fears out loud, rather than just dismissing her concerns. "Marcus, people are already scrutinizing everything we do together. The difference is that now they're making up reasons for it instead of knowing the real ones," Sophia said. "And as for working twice as hard to prove ourselves, when have either of us ever been afraid of hard work?" Marcus stood up and walked to where Sophia was standing by the window. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple," Sophia said, reaching for his hands. "We're good at business, we're good together personally, and we're both strong enough to handle whatever challenges come with combining the two. The only thing that's complicated is your fear." Marcus looked down at their joined hands and realized Sophia was right. His rule about not hiring attractive women, hadn't been about protecting his business. It had been about protecting himself from the vulnerability that came with caring deeply about someone. But Sophia had already broken through all his defenses, and trying to maintain artificial boundaries was only making both of them miserable. "There's a company holiday party next Friday," Marcus said suddenly. "It's formal, and traditionally I attend alone or with a business associate." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Are you asking me to be your date?" Marcus smiled, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders as he made the decision. "I'm asking if you want to go public with this relationship at the most visible company event of the year, in front of 300 employees, their spouses, and half our major clients." Sophia laughed, the sound bright and joyful. "Marcus Sterling, are you sure you're ready for that level of public declaration?" Marcus pulled her closer and kissed her softly. "Sophia Martinez, I'm ready for whatever comes next, as long as we face it together." As they stood together looking out at the city lights, Marcus realized that his greatest business success hadn't been building a $12 billion company. It had been finding the courage to break his own rules and trust someone enough to build something real together. The holiday party was going to be interesting. The Sterling Enterprises holiday party was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, with the Egyptian wing transformed into an elegant ballroom for 300 guests. Marcus had arrived early to ensure everything was perfect, but his real reason was nervous anticipation about making his relationship with Sophia public for the first time. Marcus stood near the museum's grand entrance, greeting arriving guests and trying not to obviously watch for Sophia. He had seen her in business attire every day for months, but tonight would be their first formal event together. When she finally appeared in the doorway, Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. Sophia wore a deep emerald dress that hugged her curves elegantly, while remaining sophisticated enough for a corporate event. Her hair was styled in soft waves that framed her face, and she carried herself with the confidence that had first captured his attention months ago. But tonight there was also something new in her expression, a look of pride and happiness that made Marcus realize how much the secrecy had been affecting her. "Good evening, Mr. Sterling," Sophia said with a playful smile as she approached him. "Good evening, Ms. Martinez," Marcus replied, offering his arm. "You look absolutely stunning." As they walked into the party together, Marcus was acutely aware of the attention they were attracting. Conversations paused as they passed, and he could see employees exchanging meaningful glances. Some looked surprised, others appeared to be confirming suspicions they had already held, and a few seemed genuinely happy for their CEO. David Chen was the first to approach them directly, wearing a knowing smile that suggested he had been expecting this revelation for weeks. "Marcus, Sophia, you both look fantastic tonight," David said, shaking hands with Marcus and giving Sophia a warm hug. "I'm glad you finally decided to stop pretending you were just colleagues," Sophia laughed. "Were we that obvious?" "Only to anyone who saw you two in the same room," David replied. "The way you look at each other during meetings isn't exactly subtle." As the evening progressed, Marcus was surprised by how positive most reactions were to their public appearance together. Several board members approached to congratulate them, and many employees seemed genuinely pleased to see their normally serious CEO looking relaxed and happy. Linda from HR made a point of speaking with Sophia privately, and Marcus watched nervously as they had what appeared to be a serious conversation near the bar. "What did Linda want to discuss?" Marcus asked when Sophia returned. "She wanted to make sure I understood the company policy about reporting relationships and to confirm that we both wanted to handle this according to proper procedures," Sophia said. "Apparently she's been expecting this conversation for weeks." Marcus felt relieved. "And what are the proper procedures?" "Disclosure to HR and the board, which we'll do Monday morning. Separate reporting structures, which means I'll report directly to David instead of you for performance reviews, and mandatory ethics training for both of us about managing potential conflicts of interest." Marcus nodded. "That all sounds reasonable." "Linda also said she was happy for us," Sophia added with a smile. "Apparently, several people have commented that you've seemed more relaxed and engaged since I started working here." As they danced together for the first time, Marcus realized that his fears about going public had been largely unfounded. The professional respect Sophia had earned through her excellent work seemed to shield her from most criticism about their relationship. If anything, people appeared to view their connection as humanizing rather than problematic. "How are you feeling about all this?" Marcus asked as they swayed to the soft jazz music. Honestly, relieved, Sophia said. I was getting tired of pretending I didn't care about you. And I think it's good for the company to see that their CEO is capable of having normal human emotions and relationships. Marcus laughed. You think I was abnormally emotionless before? Let's just say you had a reputation for being somewhat intimidating and unapproachable, Sophia replied. People were afraid to bring you problems or suggest new ideas because they never knew how you would react. As the evening continued, Marcus found himself having more genuine conversations with his employees than he had in years. People seemed more comfortable approaching him when he was with Sophia, and she had a natural ability to make everyone feel at ease. Near the end of the party, Richard Morrison, the board's most skeptical member, approached them with an expression that Marcus couldn't quite read. Marcus, Sophia, I wanted to speak with you both before I left, Richard said formally. Marcus braced himself for criticism or concerns about their professional relationship. I want you to know that Sophia's work over the past few months has been exceptional. Richard continued. Her marketing strategies have produced results that exceeded all our projections, and her board presentations demonstrate exactly the kind of strategic thinking this company needs to maintain its competitive edge. Sophia smiled graciously. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. That means a great deal coming from you. Richard nodded, then looked directly at Marcus. I also want you to know that your judgment in business matters has always been sound, and I see no reason why your personal judgment would be any different. You've both conducted yourselves professionally, and your relationship doesn't appear to have compromised either of your abilities to do excellent work. After Richard left, Marcus felt the last of his concerns about going public fade away. If the board's most demanding member approved of their relationship, he could handle any other criticism that might arise. So, Sophia said as they prepared to leave the party, how do you feel about breaking your rule about not hiring curvy women? Marcus pulled her closer and kissed her gently, not caring who might be watching. I feel like it was the best business decision I ever made, even though I fought it every step of the way. Sophia smiled. And how do you feel about falling in love with your marketing director? Marcus looked into her eyes and realized that everything he had been afraid of losing by breaking his rule, focus, control, professional respect, had actually improved since Sophia had entered his life. She had made him a better businessman and a happier person. I feel like I'm the luckiest man in the world, Marcus said honestly. Sophia, you didn't just walk into my office and break my rule. You walked into my life and showed me that the walls I had built to protect myself were actually limiting me. As they left the museum together, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few months. He had built his career on careful planning and risk management, but his greatest success had come from taking a chance on someone who challenged every assumption he had made about business and love. Sophia Martinez had indeed broken his rule about not hiring curvy women. But more importantly, she had taught him that the best things in life, whether in business or love, often required the courage to break your own rules and trust in something bigger than your fears, Marcus. Sterling had finally learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is play it safe.